What's up, everybody, and welcome back. And if you see who's joining me today, she was just a challenge finalist for the second time in her second appearance on the challenge. 2 for 2 finalist, never been eliminated. Miss Sam Mcginn, how's it going?
It's going good, Mike. It's going real good.
I know this feels very full circle. 5 years ago, for those that remember, very, very early on into my podcasting ventures, I had you on as one of my very first guests. And at that point in time, you were removed from the show at that point for
Yeah.
quite a few years. And now to kind of bring this thing full circle 5 years later, you're on it now and kicking ass and taking names. So how does it feel now knowing that you're back? Has it been, you know, better experience coming back than you maybe expected, or somewhere in between? Kind of where are you in terms of expectation level to reality?
Coming back, all these years later, it had been 12 years since I did Battle of the Seasons. And I had gotten calls in between that, but just timing and stuff didn't work out. But I don't know. The most that I was nervous for was like the social media aspect of it because, 12 years ago, you could only get Instagram if you had an iPhone. Twitter was just as wild west as it is now. But now you've got TikTok, and you can go live on the internet, and people will record the whole live and then clip out pieces and parts and put it out there without any context. So like that's one of the big worries that I had going back. But other than that, I would say like the experience in the house the first time versus this one, it was vastly different. And also I think that has to do with age. It's 22 when I did my first one. I turned 35 November of last year, so I was 34 filming this one. So that has a huge take on how you act in the house, how you react in the house, and it's definitely a different vibe older. But I'm so happy I went back. We had so much fun this season.
That's really funny that we look back at your two houses that you've been in from both your seasons. You want to talk about a night and day difference. Battle of the Seasons, most fans view that as like arguably one of the most volatile houses of like a cast we've ever seen, just with all the debauchery that went on that season. And then
Absolutely.
fast forward now, you're in a house with a lot of parents, some people that are committed and married. So it's a very big difference, let's just say, from what you experienced the first time to now. And I'm sure you felt that even from being in the house. Like
Oh
just the
yeah, definitely.
vibes. The vibes are just so much
It's
different.
it was a lot more relaxed. Like, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of stress, but 80% less stress than there was in the Battle of the Seasons house. Like that house, we were fighting for our team's life the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this one was a little bit different, and there's a lot less cattiness in the All Stars house that there is in like a franchise house.
Yeah. So when it comes to the social media aspect that we just talked about, when you were doing, Real World San Diego and then Battle of the Seasons, that came probably right at the time. I would say that MySpace probably just was either ended or was just ending, if I'm remembering
I think it
correctly.
was like 2 or 3 years after, because I remember I started my like Facebook in like 2008 or nine,
Yeah.
I think. Because the first time I tried to start it, you had to have a .edu email address because it was only for college kids.
Okay.
But yeah, so Facebook had kind of just started. Twitter was up in arms. Instagram was very low population because it was only on, like I said, iPhones and stuff like that. So we had a lot of like message boards. Vevmo was huge back in the day. Like Vevmo is still big now, but now that you have all these different, now you've got Reddit, now you've got Vevmo, you've got Twitter, you've got, Instagram, you've got Facebook, like individualized groups where people can go and, communicate. So like there's like so many multi different facets that you can go and talk shit about on the internet now. That's crazy.
How did you maybe personally navigate maybe what people were saying about you online? Did you get like a negative reception, or was it somewhere in between, or were you pleasantly met by some of the fans on your first go around?
Um, it was kind of 50-50 back then. A lot of people didn't think that I belonged there because I'm not a gym rat, wasn't a gym rat. I'm not your average challenger. And that's kind of, part of my storyline is, like when I left for Battle of the Seasons, literally the day we got on the airplane, I quit smoking cigarettes.
Wow.
And then you have CT out here who just smokes cigarettes the entire season. I didn't do that because I would have died.
Yeah.
Plot twist, I almost died. It's this close. But back then it was like 50-50. Like I said, again, I was worried about it this time, but it's been like 90-10. 90% has been awesome. It's been great. Everybody's pretty much been super nice. And then you have your 10% keyboard warriors that are just assholes. And I mean, I read some of it because, as I'm like reading through my comments, like I'll start to see one negative and like I just go past it. I don't even give it time of day. If I do have the time, I normally will it'll be on Twitter. I don't go back. I try not to go back and forth with people because like this isn't my only life. Like this is 5 weeks of my life that then gets spread out over 12 weeks on television for the people at home to sit on their couch and watch for entertainment. So I try not to think too much into the negativity, the negative stuff that they're saying, just because it's not good for my mental health or emotional health.
Yeah.
I don't need to be reading that.
Well, it is a fine line to walk because, and this goes without saying, but you lived this experience and so did your fellow castmates. And you're pretty much having to go back and live your life months down the line after having gone and filmed this. Like, it's not like a week apart when you finish filming it and then like it comes out the following week. Like, you have to return to your normal life and pretty much sit with everything that happened and wonder what's going to come out for like, let's say like 5 months, right? Because you guys filmed this in like May through June.
May through June. Yeah. So it started February or January 26th, February something?
January, yeah.
Yeah, end of January. So what was that? 6 months?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then by the end of it, you've got to add 3 more months to that. So, I mean, it just ended 2 weeks ago, and I left 6 weeks later. We're vastly quickly approaching our departure date as the year mark comes up.
Wow, you guys got at least a little bit more fortunate because I don't know if you ever heard about this, but All Stars 4, they filmed theirs a year and a half before.
That's what I had heard.
That's brutal because I'm glad that they didn't wait that long for you guys because although you're still getting the seasons naturally months after anyway, I feel like you need it close enough to where some of these issues we see play out on screen, you're able to kind of see in real time the castmates decipher this online because in an All-Star 4 case, if you get the season like a year and a half later, those issues are kind of water under the bridge at that point for a lot of those people. So, it's good that we kind of got it at least within pretty decent proximity to when it happened.
Yeah. But I mean, the Battle of the Eras took forever to end. I think that's the longest, like the most amount of episodes they've had for a challenge series in a long time. Granted, because there was a lot of people in the cast, but at the same time, it just drug on. By the end of it, I was like, just tell me who wins. I don't even care anymore. Just tell me.
Could you envision yourself doing like that length of filming if, let's say, like the flagship presented itself to you? Like,
no, the flagship is a hard no for me. It's just, it's too much time out, that like away from my family, things like that. And I just, it's not something that I'm interested in. If there were to be an All-Star 6 and I get a call, we'll see how that goes. I'm not saying no to All-Stars, but it's always a maybe for me.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you now, because actually this was something I believe you tweeted out maybe a month ago. You were talking about how you met somebody prior to going to film All Stars 5, and like you said you were going on a retreat Or
Yeah, because I can't tell them that I'm like, hey, I'm
yeah,
going to film this TV show, you know?
yeah. And then like once you got back, you pretty much found out. Didn't they get engaged or something like that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
6 months after I got home, they like I reached out to them and I was like, hey, I'm home. Like, what's going on? You know, we started talking again. And she was like, oh, you know, I'm not really in a place to date right now. I'm like, okay, I get that. Fully respect it. Cool. Enjoy whatever time you're doing with your family. I get that. 6 months later, she's engaged. I'm like, cool, cool. Love that. Love that.
So I guess my then follow up to that, just as a general point, and you could even speak to this perspective from back in the day, coming off your two original shows. What was meeting people like after the show? Like either whether it even be from like a friend level or a romantic level. Did you find that balance to be either like a negative or a positive? Like did you find that you would positively be able to meet people, or because of your time on the show, maybe they were like, oh, this person, we don't mess with. Like, how is that balance for you?
So off the back of my first two shows, I got home from filming The Real World in September of 2011. I met somebody in like October of 2011, and then her and I were together for like 5 years. So I didn't really have, and she had no clue who I was when I came home. So that was kind of great, you know? And then I dated somebody after her who was like a semi-fan of the show. But I mean, this was 5 years after my show had aired and I hadn't been on anything. So like, it wasn't like it was fresh, you know, and she's like, oh, trying to hit on me and things like that. But her and I dated for like 6 months, and then COVID happened and her and I broke up. And but now, like, especially now, like I've had a few people reach out, and I'm always skeptic just because like I'm looking to date for a future, and like I'm not here for your like notch on a bed post. I banged Sam from the challenge, you know, like that's just not who I am. I don't hook up with fans. Like if you like, it's just not my thing. I also just not into the hookup culture anymore. I was when I was younger, but like I'm 35 now. Like
yeah,
I had my hoe phase. My hoe phase is completed. I've gotten the gold medal. I'm good. I'm done.
that would feel kind of like a trippy, like fine line to walk. If like you meet somebody and then like midway through they're like, oh, by the way, like that was something you did on the show, really good on you.
Yeah, see, I would rather know ahead of time, like in the talking phase. Like, hey, I'd rather be like, hey, yeah, I've watched you on the show, X, Y, and Z, get it out of the way and be done with it. And if I can decipher whether you're in it for me and for us, then I'm cool with that. But if you're just in it, like if you're posting pictures of us every 5 seconds on your story, no.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm cool. I'm not that cool.
There's a scientific term for that. It's called clout chasing.
I don't have that much clout to chase.
So pre All Stars, I could have sworn that your process, from what I've either heard in other interviews that you've done, was quite different than some of the other casts. Like, wasn't it very like bang bang process, like get you right on the plane for this All Stars one, like kind of last minute?
Like they had called like the availability calls and things like that, and then it was like I think I went to med through like 3 weeks before departure. Like I mean, it was med check in Atlanta, came home, I found out that I was casted, gave my 2 weeks notice at my job, and left. Like there was not a lot of, I didn't have, like sometimes, especially for All Stars, we get a little bit more of a notice, calls start going out pretty far in advance because these people have corporate jobs. These people have kids. They have to, determine childcare and all X, Y, and Z, so it can't be like the flagship where they call 4 weeks out. They're like, hey, are you available to leave 4 weeks out? It's not like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, mine was pretty quick there. So I don't know if I was like a last minute ad or how it happened, but I'm glad I was there. That's all I care about.
Yeah. And that was not too long after you did Zach's podcast, wasn't it?
That's what was crazy is that I did Zach's podcast in January of last year. And then they called 2 months later, 2.5 months later. It was nuts. So I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
they could have maybe caught that in the grapevine and thought like, oh, maybe she's, more of an inclination now to want to do this.
yeah,
But
maybe.
were they calling you before that though, or did the calls start coming after?
So they called me, I think, for either All Stars 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
But it was going to film over the due date of my nephew.
Uh-huh.
And there was no way that I was going to even possibly miss that. Because what I don't want to do is go out there and then I'm watching the dates go by and I'm like, oh, my nephew's due on April 17th. I need to be home by X day to be able to make sure that I'm home for the birth. Because had I done that, I would have missed it because he was born 4 days early.
Mm-hmm.
So like he's my only nephew. So like and he was my obviously first. So like I was not going to miss that. And it wasn't worth another 15 minutes for me to miss the birth of my first nephew.
Yeah. And plus, if you go there with that mindset, thinking of, checking the dates and everything, your head and mind's mentally not going to be in the game. So it's almost as if like, if you're not going to mentally be there, you might as well not physically be there either,
Exactly. And, we've seen that from other previous cast members, that have gotten that tag of they didn't really want to be there and they, voluntarily, get eliminated and things like that, and there's like, I have no way to confirm or deny those allegations, but when it's once is a coincidence, twice is, sketchy.
Yeah. So then when this process starts to pick up, I did see, people like, Frank, Ashley start giving you the call. Did you in your mind, like, piece together, or were you one of the last ones to kind of figure out, like, because it seemed like most of the cast was trying to put together the puzzle pieces and figure out like, oh, this is, probably rivals. And then you obviously, you look at your list of people you could be with. Once you know that like Marie's not going, Zach's not going, it kind of
that's the funny part is I kept my mouth shut. I didn't say anything to anybody, and then I told one person outside of my immediate circle of friends. Like that at that point did not include anybody from any of the shows.
Mm-hmm.
I told one person that is included in the shows, and so we left May 24th or 25th. I was at home in Virginia visiting my family the weekend before that because I knew I was leaving. And I get a phone call while I'm there from Frank. Right. And he's like, so heard through the grapevine that you might be doing All-Stars. And I'm like, this motherfucker. Because my plan was to just show up and not say anything to anybody and just be like, hey, I'm here. And so Frank on the phone, he's like, we think that, we've been talking, we think the team is rivals, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, who do you think your partner's going to be? And I'm like, well, I have a very short list of who they could be. And he's like, okay, well, I was like, well, since you know so many people going, is Marie going? He's like, no. I'm like, okay. I was like, is Zach going? He's like, nope. I'm like, okay, well, you're going, right? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. I was like, well, then you're my partner. He's like, no, my partner's Nani. I was like, I don't have another rival. If those first two aren't going and you are. He's like, no, Nani's mine. I was like, well, then the theme isn't rivals. So we were thinking, I had thrown out maybe it's like a good guys versus bad guys, old school theme.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, no, because there's too many bad guys. And I'm like, well, then, hate to break it to you, buddy, but I'm your partner. And then obviously all of the pieces fell into place as we arrived in Vietnam and we figured out who all was there. Because they flew Turbo with the East Coast people and they flew Nani with the West Coast people.
So separate planes.
Turbo lives in LA. Turbo from LA to JFK, and then so that he could fly with us, so that they could keep them secretive of who it was. Because I don't think Nani knew who her partner was until
Turbo's a bit of a wild card in that regard. He's very much a lone wolf, so he probably would have been one of the harder ones to figure out.
And we didn't even know he was on our plane until we got off the plane in Qatar. Like, it was wild. I'm standing there with Anissa, and she's like, Tarabi? And he like perks up and he like looks, and we're like, whoa.
What was maybe your rationale at first for not wanting to tell anybody and just show up? Like, was it from a strategic standpoint or just like a personal level? You just felt most comfortable doing it that way?
Yeah, it was more so just a personal thing because it had been so long. I didn't want the wheels to start turning on the cast front ahead of time. So I was like, you know what, if I just keep this to myself and I just show up, there's no way for them to start anything before, pretty much the cameras start or in the hotel. So, yeah. I mean, and I was nervous because it had been 12 years. I don't know what the cast members, reactions are going to be. That is one thing I will say. The All-Stars house is so much nicer, like socially and just personally, than the other house was. Everybody was so mean in the other house. Everybody's so nice. We did puzzles. We did face masks. We hung out. We just chilled. We went and hung out in the pool. We cooked burgers. Like, it was great. Felt like summer camp.
Yeah, I mean, we got the whole gif of you and Davon dancing after that one elimination. That's become a national treasure now. I see it floating around. People use it out of context. If it has nothing to do with you guys, like they'll be like, "Oh, mood for like something," and it'll just be that clip. I see it all the time now. Yeah,
I stand for it.
Yeah, how could you not, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we obviously know Frank was very like hands-on when it came to figuring out the strategy, and like he clearly did a lot of like his own intel for your guys' social game heading into this. Did you try to go into this blind in the sense of knowing anything about because you said 12 years obviously, and there's been several different shows that have since ingratiated itself onto the challenge and just people in general that you've yet to meet, so you're meeting a lot of these people for the first time. Did you try to just go in blind and like, when you see them right there, that's when you see them? Or did you do your own like little intel prior to showing up?
So the two shows that I watched, or the shows that I watched before I left, was all 4 of the All-Star seasons, just to get, because I hadn't seen any of it.
Yeah.
Just to get an idea of what I was going into. Plus trivia, there's always questions of previous seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But I did, other than that, that was it.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't watched a full season of the challenge since my season of Battle of the Seasons. So I have no idea, like other than clips and stuff here and there on the internet, and TikTok and stuff like that. I had no clue who any of these people were. Obviously, like the OGs. I knew who Shane was. I knew who, Katie and Veronica were. Outside of that, I knew like Beth, obviously.
Yeah.
Of, their legacy challenge people.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched them growing up. I knew who everybody pretty much was. The only ones that I didn't really know at all was like Corey. I didn't really know Corey at all. Just because he didn't have a big like social media presence, and I don't hang out on Twitter unless I'm on TV because it's just a barren land of idiocracy. So I didn't really know much about him. I mean, I knew a little bit about Melissa. I knew a little bit about Big T just because of her time was it Free Agents with CT?
Double Agents, yeah.
Double Agents, that's what it was. But like, T, I don't know these people. But that was kind of cool because I was able to come in with an unbiased opinion and make my own decision based on what's happening right in front of me and not all of the edits that people get. Because everybody's got to think. We're at the end of the day, we're filming a TV show first. We were there for 5 weeks filming pretty much 24 hours a day, 6.5 days a week. there's so much that doesn't get shown. So I have to take that with grace for these other people. I can't judge them off the character that they are based off of an edit. So I wanted to go in with an open mind and be like, okay, this is my opinion of them in this moment, in this house, not social media them, not previous season them, just now.
Well, because that's like thousands of hours worth of footage that they're having to, put together into like an hour, basically, a week.
Well, you got to think, because it was on MTV this time, it's only 44 minutes.
Because of commercials, right?
Because of commercials. So, like Battle of the Eras was an hour and a half episodes, which really timed out to be about an hour and 15 minutes of actual footage, which is great because that's the fans and the viewers get a lot of insight of what's going on. But like in the All Stars house, it really wasn't much going on. People were like, "Oh, we wanted more." I mean, there really wasn't much more going on. There was a lot of downtime, and a lot of that downtime was spent by the pool, in the gym, doing puzzles, doing skits, joking on the people that have left, like stuff like that, like stuff that you guys don't need to see. It has nothing to do with the gameplay. Now, I do wish that we could bring back the shit they should have shown. Like
those were great.
Those were my favorite, because there's definitely some stuff that we would have liked to see on that was just like fun in the moment, but it had nothing to do with gameplay. It wouldn't have changed the viewer, like the way viewers see anybody. But it was fun.
Well, for a while, people thought we were going to get a reunion out of this. That was the word on the street.
I thought so too, because Paramount never bought a reunion. So that's why there was one for All Stars 1, because it was the inaugural season. It made sense. Yeah. And it was a ton of OGs.
Yeah.
Whereas the middle three, yes and no, but like with Rivals, there was so much to unpack with, our pasts with each other, where we are now, how we were able to overcome, plus all the drama that did incur in the house, and I wish we would have. I even texted one of our producers and was like, hey, are we getting a reunion? Because Twitter is a muck right now.
I do feel like this was potentially one of those seasons that we could have really used a reunion. Yes. And selfishly, New York's right behind me, so that's usually where the reunions take place. I would have yeah.
The old TRL studios.
Yeah. They started actually doing, so aside from All Stars and Double Agents, which we just talked about, because those took place during COVID, those were in New York, so it was a lot tougher with the travel logistics and the procedures. Right. But besides those, they've started to do all the flagship reunions overseas. A lot of them are in Amsterdam and stuff now.
Well, it's cheaper.
Really? Yeah.
Labor's cheaper, insurance is cheaper, renting equipment is cheaper. You got to think, and as shitty as it sounds, most of the film industry and television industry is unionized, which is great. But it's cheaper for the challenge to take its crew of 300, skeleton crew of 150 people and hire 150, contractors or locals that are getting paid way less than what an American would in a union.
Yeah. So
it makes sense, unfortunately. That's a lot of TV and film have moved, to Canada, to Vancouver. A lot of stuff. There was one, I was listening to a podcast, I think it was Sophia Bush, and she was talking about it's cheaper to film a movie in Budapest than it is to film it in LA anymore, because it's just so expensive and insurance is outrageous. Half the shit that we do on the show wouldn't be allowed because of insurance and, the high risk factor of what we do. It wouldn't be allowed in the States.
It's actually quite wild on the Battle of the Eras reunion, because Amsterdam, it's a big smoking place.
Yeah.
You literally see in the one it's focused on somebody else, a conversation, maybe Laurel or somebody's having, and this one guy Nehemiah who was on. Oh no, he
Yeah,
wasn't on.
I know Nehemiah.
Yeah, you literally see him rolling up a blunt behind Laurel, like literally in the middle of the reunion. But it's allowed because it's in Amsterdam. Like that.
Yeah.
That's yeah. So,
Unfortunately, when we're actually filming the show, it's not allowed, even if it is allowed in the country.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
there's no drugs.
Yeah.
It's still classified as a drug, even though it's legal at most places. But yeah, no.
Speaking of which, do you remember when you guys were going to film Battle of the Seasons and there was supposed to be a Team Sydney?
I do.
That-
They were on the bus when we pulled up to the arena to film the intro. And
Yeah.
they pulled off the bus, and they disappeared into oblivion and were never seen again.
Yeah, that was one of the big. That's actually probably the biggest like Easter egg amongst the challenge fans.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Well, if you watch the first episode, when we do "Don't Cross Me," and fresh meat runs out, you can visibly see Cara Maria's jersey is just tape with her name written on it in Sharpie.
Yep.
Like, I think Sydney was supposed to be that color, and they had to change it very last minute. So.
Well, listen, anytime we lose out on Kellyanne content, which shout out to her, she just announced she has 13 weeks pregnant yesterday.
Congratulations, Kellyanne.
Congratulations to her. But anytime we lose out on Kellyanne on a season, I consider that a loss in my eyes. So,
well, that, but also Isaac. Isaac. Obviously, I got to meet Isaac in the airport, but like you only get so much time with people. And so I met Isaac in December, actually, of last year. He's incredible. I love him. He would be TV gold. I want him to do an All-Stars.
He would be one of those like additions to I feel like on a future All-Star season that would be. Yeah. I could see him being like just a real wild card, you know, like
he is, and he's still shredded. He's still just as agile as ever.
Mm-hmm. If there was one team that could have given you guys potential trouble, it might have been them. Like they had a pretty decent team.
Key West.
Yeah, Key West would have been a tough one.
West, I mean, you got to think it would have been Johnny, Tyler, Paula, Svetlana.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that would have been a monstrosity of the team, and the social game would have completely changed with Bananas in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there anybody that maybe surprised you upon meeting them from this season? Maybe you know, not a preconceived notion, but maybe you just didn't expect, and then your opinion maybe shifted, like positively, potentially, after meeting them?
I mean, not really. There was, like I said, I went in there with a clean slate of pretty much everybody. You know, I knew, like, I had heard things about Fessy, obviously. I had, you know, with Leroy, I love Lee. Love him. I loved him because I was supposed to be on him and Nani's season of The Real World.
Oh, originally. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, like, I've always had like a pseudo tie to that season just because what woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah.
But I wasn't 21, so I wasn't allowed to go. But like, I mean, everybody was pretty much everybody was positive. You know, it was definitely a rough road for some people. You know, and I think that it could have been better. But as you get towards the end of filming, you've been in the house with these same people for so long, and you know it's getting close to the end, and you sort of kind of just start to slowly lose your mind.
Mm-hmm.
You start to just spiral. And I think we saw that with a certain cast member, and I voiced my opinion about that on Twitter very loudly. And yeah, I think maybe this is, maybe his last one, just because it was rough for him. And for those of you, it was Shane that I'm talking about.
Yeah. Did you have any personal dynamic with him? Like, I know because it's been very well documented with him and Frank's relationship was like on the season, either from interviews or just like what we saw. Did you have any like personal like dynamics with him, or was it mostly just, you know, kind of friendly fire with what him and Frank were going through?
You know, it's funny because he said something recently on the Zach Nichols podcast, actually, about how he respects Frank and, this, that, and the third. But, there's in-game, shots. There's post-production shots of us watching it with live with everybody else. And then there's when things get taken too far and it gets taken so far out of context that it doesn't need to cross that line. And I think there's some people that just need to kind of step back and realize we're on a television show. Nobody's doing this to personally attack anybody.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing this for entertainment purposes, and that's it.
Well, because I personally can appreciate people who can compartmentalize that they're filming a reality TV show, because at the end of the day, the root of this show and why it's still going to this day is because of the entertainment aspect. Whether anybody, wants to say that or not, I mean, that's the facts are the facts. If you go look at the inception of the show, it started because of the entertainment and the documentation of people's lives. It didn't start by, being a sport. It's since kind of it's devolved in a bit to have sport aspects, but that's not why the show originated. So,
right. I mean, you can even see the shift in it being a social endeavor to a competition reality show. God, it had to have been probably Dirty 30 was when the big shift happened in the dynamic of what the game, it turned into more of a game rather than people getting drunk at a camp, like in a campground, summer camp style, to, oh, this is real money. This is real shit. We're just jumping off of 55-story buildings. This isn't just a 12-story building anymore. This is real shit sports stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then like for me at least, I noticed like during like the COVID era, like when we started getting the people, like they lived in a bunker the one season actually, like, which is crazy.
That was nuts. I talked to some of those people and they were like, it was awful because they, like, you got to think the sun does a lot of things for your health. And like, yes, was that when they were in Iceland?
So they did Iceland the next one. That's when they were in Czech Republic.
Okay, so Czech Republic, it's already cold, it's already gloomy, and you put them in a residence with no windows. From what I understand, even when they were on the buses, they had all the window shades closed. So like they took the mental game of that one specifically to a whole other level. Like I don't know if I would have been able to do that, to not see, like, physically see the outside world. Well,
because I mean that's not only, I mean, it's one thing, the physical aspect of it, but that does something like mentally to you. Like,
nice.
I mean, I work in a place where there's no windows, and that's only like for 8 hours of a day. These people are, having to stay in that environment for, let's just say, like 2 months if you're staying the entire way through.
Yeah. I mean, shit, 40. So I got called to be an alternate for 40. And when they told me the dates, like the span, it was 3 months. And I was like, no. No. 3 months is entirely way too long. 5 weeks for All-Stars? Sign me up. But like up to 3 months is crazy talk.
Yeah. I got to ask though, like, because you did obviously take those 12 years away from the show, eventually fences were mended and, you just lived your life, proceeded accordingly. Was there any part of you that had a chip on your shoulder in the sense of, if you were to get that opportunity again, wanting to prove something, either maybe to yourself or to other people? Like, what was your mindset at in terms of your time away? How'd you feel?
I actually talked about this in the final interview for the show, and I'm mad they didn't show it. I get it because Adam was proposing, so like,
yeah,
he got the shine. That's fine. I'm so happy for them. But I was, part of it is I wanted to prove to myself, but I also wanted it to be like a big fuck you to everybody else that said I didn't deserve it the first time. Because guess what? I still got there. Was it gracefully get there? No. But I still got there. I didn't come in last. And I've never been eliminated for the game. I have a perfect elimination record. I've got 2 finals under my belt for 2 appearances. It goes to show that I belong there. It may not be the most graceful trek, but I'm still there. I'm still in the playing field.
Yeah. Well, because I know you almost made it back for Invasion of the Champions, didn't you?
That was when I tell you that was here's me, here's the rug. I think it was like a week from departure that I got pulled. I had already quit my job. I had already done all of the things, getting ready to leave. And I got called and they were like, no, sorry. I'm like, cool. Thanks. It was actually Kelsey that took my spot.
Yeah. Did that one stick with you at all, like for a while? Or were you...
but that was beef with me in production because
like,
and that's one of the things that my mom hates about this whole process is like they dangle this carrot in front of you and they can just rip it away at any point. And that was a perfect example of it. I mean, I had already done med check. I already signed my contract. I had done everything. I was literally ready to leave 5 days later and everything changed. And I had to go get a new job. I had to like re-sign a lease to an apartment. Like it was crazy. Like I had already prepaid my car payment so that I didn't have to worry about it while I was gone, So like I was banking on that extra money that I was gotten for my filming stipends, my weekly pay for that to hold me over for rent. So like all this, like that's what a lot of the viewers don't realize is like when we get pulled, yes, it sucks for you guys. It sucks so bad for us. Like, unless you have, 40 grand just stockpiled away, something like that could be detrimental, and it almost was for me. And I was lucky enough to be able to, get a job, find a place. I was able to stand back up on my own 2 feet after the rug had been pulled, but it definitely sucked. And that kind of left a bad taste in my mouth from a production standpoint, just because I uprooted my entire life to go do this, and then you just say no at the last minute.
Yeah, I feel like at a certain point, if you've already like gone through some of the physical process in the signing of the contracts, I feel like at that point it's like, all right, like, you kind of have to like, put them on this show no matter what. I mean, that's a lot of risks taken to kind of move these mountains in place.
Exactly. And then I moved the mountains and was left with a fucking Sahara desert of trying to get through and reach the water hole on the other side of getting my life back together.
From that point on then, because that would have been Invasion, and then we would have had like the Dirty 30 stuff. Were you called after that, or was it on pause once that?
No. So I hadn't gotten after Invasion, I didn't get a call until All Stars 2 or 3.
Wow.
And which is fine. I was cool with that. I had gotten into like a corporate job, so there was no way that I could leave anyways.
Yeah.
Without quitting, and that's just something that I wasn't interested in doing. Where are they both over there? Hold on, give me 1 second. There it is.
Yeah, no.
Sorry, my PlayStation was about to go to sleep, and I don't know if my thing is safe. And I'm like, I've currently started Hogwarts Legacy. I don't know if you've played that yet, or if you do play video games, but it's pretty good.
I used to be a huge gamer actually, but I'm pretty basic these days. When I do play video games, it's usually just Madden, but I did have my video game phase.
There you go.
Yeah.
I started mine in COVID because there was nothing else to do.
Yeah, I mean COVID probably would have been the best time for the gaming industry to see a spikeage, I would assume.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, you brought up your mom before, and I have to say that she was the star cameo appearance in one of the more recent challenge developments about a month ago. You had this whole Instagram live situation that went down with Nicole.
Yeah.
From your vantage point, did you see what sparked that on her end? Because I was watching this, and I'm like, seems pretty routine. and then I see it take a,
Oh yeah, like undeveloped road left turn into oblivion. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, I had no idea why she was mad. I had no, she started coming at me, basically calling my mother a liar. But I grabbed this whole ring light and I was like, "You gonna tell her you're a liar?" Because she actually called me the next day. So that was the part one of the final,
Part
right?
one, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So she was also upset about how the beginning of that episode started, which, her with the whole her and Melissa of it all. And she's dating somebody new now, which was not the same girl from while she was filming.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she was very upset about how it was portrayed.
Mm-hmm.
She, for obvious reasons. But she called me the next day and told me this is her story. Basically, what had happened is somebody, an unnamed person, reached out to her on either Instagram or Twitter and sent her a DM that basically I was talking shit about her on the Challenge official podcast and about the whole situation. And I told her, I was like, first of all, the podcast hadn't even come out yet. It didn't come out until the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody had heard it. The only people that heard it were me, Tori, Davon, the producer that sits in on it, me, and my mom. That's the only 5 people that had heard it at that point because we were in the room while it was being filmed.
Yeah.
And so when she called me and she was like, she apologized. And I was like, first of all, why are you listening to random accounts that send you stupid fucking information on the internet anyways? That that people do this all the time. I was like, and whenever you hear stuff like that, reach out to me. I was like, you call me 20 times a day anyways. But you didn't call me about this and you decided to explode on Instagram Live. And then she was like, can you apologize to your mom for me? I was like, no, you can apologize to her. I will text you her phone number and you can call her and you can apologize to her. Because that's between her and you, not between me, you, and her. Right. So you apologize to me, now you got to apologize to her. And she did. She called my mom like an hour later and apologized to my mom and talked to my mom for like 30 minutes.
Wow. So I'm sure you appreciated that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I definitely did, because she's a good kid. I like her. I know can be a controversial person when it comes to the show that, a lot of people don't like her. I love her. I think she's funny as shit. She's very down to earth. She's easy to talk to, but she definitely can get herself back into a corner sometimes. And I think she was too worried about what everybody else's view of her was to actually take into account of everything that was happening.
Yeah. I mean, a lot was happening. I mean, these past 2 seasons for her have been under a microscope when it comes to her on a personal, not even from a games perspective. I'd say in terms of personal life, this has been her under the microscope the most the past couple.
Well, and at the end of the day, we sign up for this. We know what can happen and how the edit can be portrayed in a negative or a positive light. And if it was me personally and I had that season with Laurel and all of the aftermath of all of that, I don't think I would do another season for a while to let that cool off, because I don't want my future seasons to always be a flashback to that one moment. If that makes sense.
That's actually funny that you brought up about the fan or whatever random person DMing her, because for those that do remember, that wasn't the first time Nicole fell for something. So there was a Wendy Williams challenge account, and it's not the real Wendy Williams. They make videos and it's of segments throughout the years of Wendy Williams, segments from the show. And you can tell it's a really horrible Photoshop.
Yeah, it's Nicole's superimposed on the behind Wendy Williams.
Yeah, that account made a video about Nicole with Wendy talking about. I guess I don't know, maybe it was negative to a certain extent, but Nicole saw this and shared it on her story and was like, "Oh, I can't believe this would have gotten green lighted to put on national television," and tagged Wendy Williams.
First of all, y'all, everybody leave Wendy Williams alone. First of all. Second of all, the fact that's funny. The fact that she thought that she made it to Wendy Williams is crazy. Oh, God. Between AI and superimposed videos and pictures on the internet, we're doomed. My mom sent me something, and it's like, those, you remember the knocker balls?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's these people like jumping off a bridge onto a roadway and like bouncing down the roadway. She's like, this is something you would do. I was like, Mom, this is AI. Like, this is not real. And I'm like, Mom, like, she's a computer programmer. That's what is so mind blowing to me is that like she fell for this thinking this was a real activity. I'm like, Mom, no.
I see a world. I see a world in which AI incorporates itself in some capacity on the challenge pretty soon. I mean, we've already seen drones be used. Like, this is.
Yeah. I think Big Brother did it actually recently, where there was an AI cast member.
Oh, okay.
Where and I don't remember how they did it, or it was some sort of show that had an AI cast member. You'd have to do some more research on it, but I mean, it would be a television version of The Sims.
Wow.
If you did like a whole cast of nothing but AI people, like a show of nothing but AI people, would literally be just The Sims, but on television and not you personally. I don't know. It'd be kind of weird.
I mean, I know you'd sign up for that because you're very big into video games.
Yeah. Are you kidding me? You know how many hours of my life I've played The Sims for when I was younger?
Alrighty. Well, Sam, it was great to catch up with you. I'll let you get out of here. Hopefully we see you again in the future. Or see anybody for that matter, because as of right now, it looks like we're at a fork in the road.
We are. Unfortunately, All Stars 5 on MTV didn't do as great as we thought it was going to go. So get out there, talk about it, hashtag it, hashtag All Stars 6 on everything. Get talking about it. That would be kind of our best bet. I know that Mark's been talking to supposedly Evelyn and Sarah Rice about coming back. Evelyn would be huge. Another one,
really
we saw the Coral video. Coral coming back would be massive. There's quite a few OGs that the challenge world wants to see on the show. So tag those people, talk about them, tag Mark, tag All Stars, tag We Want OGs, get the conversations going, because without you guys, All Stars wouldn't have even existed in the first place. And I think it's fun. It's a fun time, to be able to see some of your favorite people come back for a shortened period, still make some money, still have some drama, and have fun at the same time.
Well, listen, she's spoken, guys, so do what she says, and hopefully in the future we can get the ball rolling on another one. But Sam, good to see you again. As always.
Thanks, Mike.
Do this again. Yep. All right, take it easy.
Take it easy.
Bye.